It'd be fairly
Yeah.
relaxed kind of thing. I'm not too honest. Anything you don't want to talk about while we're sort of off air.
Can't think of anything.
Right. Okay. I'm sure you'll tell me if I say something.
I've gotten so old I don't give a shit anymore, Dave.
All right. That's cool. Let's roll with it. Hi, I'm Dave. This is Rock Radio UK, and we're talking to a legend today, Jay Johnson. Hello, sir.
I'm a legend to last till lunchtime. How's it going, Dave?
I'm good. I'm well. How are you?
Man, we're hanging in there, having a good time, just getting ready to do some more picking and grinning, as we say. I'm hoping to see that
Yeah.
bounce back up. It's usually this time of year where there's not much going on musically, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking with the Skinny Molly guys, the way I understand it, we're heading your way sometime in May, which I think will be cool.
Which I think will be excellent because I haven't yet seen Skinny Molly in the flesh, and
I
I
think
I
you'll get
do
a kick
like
out of it.
good.
It's loud, it's noisy, and it's politically incorrect.
Oh well, maybe I should stay away. Would I get offended? I mean,
Well, possibly, but everything's offensive these days.
well, this is true.
Yeah,
Even my hairstyle.
yeah. I sometimes I offend even myself.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
good going, that is. Oh,
yeah.
okay, right. So I honestly, I know Skinny Molly and I know the tunes, but I don't really know how it all came about. So why don't we sort of like touch on that for a minute?
Man, it was gonna. We're talking about somewhere around 2004 ish.
Mm,
The Skinny Molly thing came about. It was actually Mike Estes who had been with the Leonard Skinner guys for a few years back in the '90s, and original Molly Hatchet guitar player Dave Lubeck.
right.
They just Mike approached Dave. Dave had played with me and Jackson Spires in a band called the Southern Rock All Stars, and he'd been in the band with us for 9 or 10 years. And we partied company with Dave, and Mike called me up and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about asking Dave. I'm gonna put him to work. Are you guys okay with that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, rock on, yeah, hire him. Do what you got to do. Just maybe follow him around a little bit and make sure he doesn't, do anything out of the ordinary. But yeah, rock on." And Mike and Dave went out with a couple of guys and did a like what was supposed to be a
Mm,
one-off tour. They were only going to do it once and then never bother with it again. And they had a great time
yeah.
and just decided to keep it going. And just for giggles, they called it Skinny Molly. You had the one guy from Leonard Skinner and the one guy from Molly Hatchet. And I think that irritated a few people. But
Surely not.
yeah, yeah, sure. But that continued
Mm,
and just kept on and kept on. And Mike gave me a buzz one day, and I had just recently severed ties with Blackfoot. I was the singer for Blackfoot at the time,
mm.
and we had C Star run with that. And Mike called me up and said, "Let's go do some stuff." I said, "Okay, well, first let's go to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico for 3 weeks. Is that okay with you?" And he was like, yeah. So he and I went and did that for 3 weeks before we jumped into the Skinny Molly thing. And we've been doing that ever since. And it's been a blast.
Okay, okay. So describe to our listeners what sort of sound. I mean, I know, I love it, but just describe describe yourselves.
Myself,
Well, no, just your music, just your sounds, just the Skinny Molly
it's
thing.
southern. It's very much southern rock in the vein of
Hmm.
Leonard Skinner, but heavier, a little
Yeah.
heavier, a little more martially, that kind of stuff. And drums a little more like the Blackfoot, so just a little heavier edge.
Hmm.
But that very southern fried American feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you've got quite a history. I mean, before Skinny Molly, you were in a lot of well, like you said, Blackfoot for a while.
yep.
I mean,
Blackfoot. I was in the Rossington band, the very last solo project that Gary Rossington had before he went full in back with the Leonard Skinner guys. So we
yeah.
we did that for about 2 years, and well, really closer to 3 years.
Mm.
And that was a great time. It was a great time
Yeah,
with Gary. Yeah.
that was a sad loss. That must have been a year
Yeah.
ago now, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Skinny Molly. I mean, how many albums now have you released? I'm sort of like
We got
thinking,
the three studio records and the one live
yes,
DVD. Yeah.
yeah. So are there
Yeah.
any more plans for?
I've been hearing that there's an album in the works.
Okay,
I've
okay.
been hearing that for quite some time, Mike Estes, just so you know, in case you're listening. But I would love to hear some of the music, Mike. So if you'll just give me a buzz and play some of the songs for me, I'll be glad to come up and play on them. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, we are planning a fourth studio album.
that's good news. That is really good news. So how did you get into music yourself? Where did it all start?
All started with my dad. My dad's Jimmy Johnson, who
Mm,
was one of the Swampers that pretty much kind of mentored and shepherded the early Leonard Skinner band and Blackfoot for that
yeah.
matter. So he owned co-owner of Muscle Shoals Sound Studio in Sheffield, Alabama. And so he'd played on all the early Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett
Wow.
soul stuff and the R&B stuff of the late 60s.
Mm,
So they had a really cool thing going there. And he wound up producing what became the Leonard Skinner Band in like late 1969 and moved on into Blackfoot, worked with the Rolling Stones. I mean, you really can't turn on a classic station in the States or in the UK for that matter, and without hearing him play on something at least once every hour. I mean, he
yeah.
played on, gosh, 500 records that I know were cataloged. I have no idea how many just never made the list, just
Wow.
hundreds of records. And I grew up in the midst of that environment.
Mm,
Um, my mom and my dad divorced when I was 7 years old. So I would visit my dad on the weekends, and of course he was working. So he
mm,
would throw my sister and I in the car and go straight to the studio, and we would stay at the studio all night. So we were sitting there. Oh, Bob Seger, he's a nice guy, Dad. Yeah, I mean, Ronnie Van Zant. Yeah, I mean, that we grew up with that, and as I aged, I wound up in some of the very bands that I watched
mm.
basically record their first albums. The
Oh,
Blackfoot. I remember sitting through the first Blackfoot recordings when I was 10 years old. I had been playing drums. I had an uncle that taught me how to play the drum kit, and I saw Blackfoot, and I heard Charlie Hargret and Ricky Medlock playing guitars, and Jackson Spires killing those drums. And all I could think of, I was 10 years old at that time. All I could think of was, I'll never be able to play drums like that ever. I'll play guitar now.
yeah.
So the Blackfoot guys literally influenced me to play guitar. And
Wow.
then I wound up in a band about, you know, 15 years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty wild.
Yeah. I did speak to Ricky Medlock last week, actually.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. This is how it all came about because our mutual friend from Sons of Liberty, Fred, he'd seen the interview and he said, "Oh, you need to speak to Jay." And I thought, "Okay, let's do it." And this is how
Fred
it.
said that or Ricky said that?
Fred said that. Fred said that.
Fred said that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Obviously you must know Ricky, but
I've
I,
known him since I was about 10 years old. Yeah.
yeah,
Or earlier, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so it must have been quite something then to actually step into what was essentially his shoes and say, right, let's make this mine.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So if was it, I suppose, was it something you thought you would do as a career?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I was around it so much, and I'd watch my dad and the guys in the Swampers craft
Hmm.
these songs, and of course, their world was a different world. They didn't go out live. They played
Okay.
everything in the studio all the time. They never played live anywhere.
Hmm.
and I wanted to do the live concert type stuff,
Yeah.
so I definitely, and I came up during right when it was starting to, the disco thing was in full swing, and but at the same time, some of the best of the classic rock was coming out. Thin Lizzy, for example. I mean, I thought Thin Lizzy hung the moon. Bands like Kiss and Rush, and
Mm.
so many bands in the mid '70s that were doing so well. And even earlier bands like the Ventures back in the '60s, the surf music stuff. That
Yeah.
all of that had a big impact, and even easing into the early new wave stuff. I thought the Police were really cool. I thought the reggae guitars were kind of neat. You
Mm.
know, That's kind of an eclectic mix of stuff, but still
Yeah.
had that Southern rock root from the earliest days.
Yeah. So going through your career, I mean, what were the most memorable gigs? You saying you love to play live, and that's what you aspire to do. So, where?
Gosh, memorable gigs, so many, man. We did a great run with Kansas, the band Kansas, in
Hmm,
1987. It was not only Gary Rossington finally coming back out of a little self-imposed hiatus for several years, but it was the first time they had brought Steve Walsh back into the band with
right,
Kansas. So they had, and not only was it Steve Walsh, but they had added one of my favorite guitar players on the planet, Steve Morse, was in the band.
right.
And so I just every night I would just sit here going, man, is this really happening to me? I mean, I'm touring with my favorite guitarist from Leonard Skinner, and now I'm standing next to yet another guitar god on stage. And Steve was a huge Leonard Skinner fan.
Yeah.
So every night, and I don't know whether his band appreciated this much at all, but every night that we played with those guys, Steve would jump up with us on our last song, which was Don't Misunderstand Me, the Roston Collins song.
Right.
And Steve would jump up and play with us on that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think Steve Walsh cared for that too much,
Yeah, we'll gloss over that.
but just great bands, man. Just every night just standing there going, wow. Yeah. It was
Mm,
just a fan being a fan. Yeah. In
yeah.
the right place at the right time.
Do you, when you were living through it, did you get a feeling of how big, like, the Southern rock music was, the whole scene? Did you have any imagine at all how big an impact it was having on everybody
I've
else?
early no, they were just the guys that showed up every few months and threw a football with me in the parking lot of the studio. They were just,
Mm,
well, that's the Leonard Skinner guys, or that's the Blackfoot guys, But when we started, when I started touring with the Leonard Skinner guys, I mean, I knew that it was always just they were icons. Because you couldn't go even back then. You couldn't go anywhere without somebody go Freebird.
yeah.
But when we first started doing it was the tribute tour in 1987 when the most of the original band got back together. Um, it was one of those few concerts where you could walk out in the crowd and every single person in that crowd knew every word to
Mm,
every song and we're singing along. I'm going, yeah, that's who these guys are.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, they raise hell at a Kiss concert or a Led Zeppelin concert, but none of those guys, the crowd knows every word to every song. I mean, it was just, like how you go to a Rush concert and everybody's playing air drums.
Yeah.
Nobody does that anywhere else. It was that way at a Leonard Skinner show. Everybody knew everything,
Yeah.
and it was a very special, like going to church kind of thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. Well, rolling forward there, I mean, you said you were Skinny Molly hoping to record and you're coming over here in May. I mean, what does the future hold for you now, aside from all that? I mean, have you got other projects on the go?
I've got some stuff going. I've got a buddy of mine in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, that he used to play a lot with Sammy Hagar's gentleman named Brian Flynn.
Mm.
And we're looking to do some more stuff in the future with him. We had recorded a whole bunch of stuff. Oh gosh, it's been several years back. It's never seen the light of day. So we're hoping to see a little bit of that happen. And my wife and I uh, were best friends in high school back in the early 1980s. And we were in bands back in those days. And there was about a 28-year gap where we didn't see each other.
Okay.
We each took different paths. We each got married and had kids, by different people and stuff. And in 2011, we looked up at the right place at the right time together, and the rest was history. We got married. We're married today, and she's an incredible songwriter.
Okay.
And it is every shade, every genre that I could think of. She'll just pull something out of the air. I want to do this, write something to this, and she'll sing it. And it might be a Fleetwood Macish thing 1 second, and then it turns into a Southern rock track the next, then it
Mm.
goes into Bee Gees territory. I mean, it's like, it's wow, oh cool, and well, wow, where am I going to go with this? So we've got a wealth of songs that she and I've been writing for the last 12 years. That's pretty
Okay.
cool.
That
Yeah,
sounds, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to hearing something of that because that sounds
yeah,
pretty good.
it's a different walk. It is
Yeah.
definitely way off the beaten path from the whole Skinny Molly, Leonard Skinner, Blackfoot style.
Yeah. Do you sometimes wish for other projects like that?
I am
Diversify?
so busy doing all of the stuff I'm doing. Uh, I mean, I have to book an appointment to break wind. I mean, just literally. Oh yeah, I really need to do this, but well, no, I don't have any time. Hang on, take a number. But that is basically where my life is right now. I've got so many things going on. I've got a farm, 187-acre farm. I'm trying to figure out what to do with that. And
Okay.
between that and the music and the real estate, I'm like going, not a whole lot of room for extra stuff. And somewhere you got to find some way to put your family in there in the midst of all that, and
Yeah.
not to be derelict in that area.
Yeah. I can see you as a farmer though. I mean, I was a dairy farmer myself for years and years and years. So, and if you need any tips,
Cool. Yeah, I need some cows, man. That's what I need. I need right
yeah,
now. I need
everybody needs a cow.
cow.
I've got to say,
Everybody needs some cows.
yeah.
That'll teach you a little humility. A little, yeah.
Yeah. It'll teach you some new swear words you probably haven't thought of as well at the same time.
Absolutely, but I tour Finland a lot. I have learned some
Okay.
really vile swear words in the last year.
Really? Really? I thought the Finnish were quite tame and quiet and
Oh, they're really, really quiet, but their swearing is top notch. I can't think of anyone
okay.
that swears better, except maybe
Yeah.
the Indians. Maybe
Okay.
the Indians. The Indians and the Finnish, they got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they could teach us how to swear.
um, I've just lost my train of thought there. That's just typical. In the music industry itself, I mean, you've seen it in various stages now. How are you managing with the industry as it is at the moment?
What industry?
Okay. Yeah, I
There
suppose
is
that
no
is it.
industry. Yeah, it's gone. Uh,
Yeah.
Video killed the radio star, but the internet killed everything else. Yeah, when the internet first really got cracking, all of it, we were in the Southern Rock All Stars. I thought, all right, finally, we don't have to have a record company. We can do this ourselves.
Mhm.
So wrong we were, but yeah, it's amazing how one invention has single-handedly destroyed the music industry, and
Yeah.
you would have thought otherwise. But it was even Steve Morris himself, and the last time I saw him, I said, "Well, when are you going to do another solo album?" He said, "I'm not." I went, "Well, why not?" He said, "Because the minute I put it out, some idiot's going to post it on YouTube, and I won't make a dime off of it."
Mm.
And yeah, so it's yeah, internet killed the industry, as far as I know.
Well,
So yeah, when it's to the point of where the only way you can make any money musically is by hitting the streets and playing live,
mm,
which used to be just to support your record.
yeah, yeah,
Your record was what made you the money, and the tour was simply to support the record. Now all of the support is live.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's
Merchandise
tough.
and
I mean, it sucks for these new upcoming kids that have that fire and
mm,
have that desire. But in fact, I think it was Gene Simmons that said, he said, what room is there for these new virtuosos coming up because they can't make a living and pay the bills? You know.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's tough.
It is indeed. So what would you advise up and coming virtuosos, like you said? How would you advise them now? What would you say to look out for?
Don't quit your day job. That's it. Don't quit your day job, dude. And maybe learn a few tricks while you're out there playing, because uh, it's kind of like a fuse on a keg of gunpowder.
Yeah,
You light that thing, it's gonna spurt and fizzle for a while. It's either gonna blow up and turn into something cool, or it's gonna be a dud.
yeah,
So be prepared for the dud days, because there's going to be plenty of them. And yeah, if you don't know how to do anything but play that guitar, you're doomed.
yeah.
You got to find something else to do. And in my case, it was real estate. I
Yeah.
figured out my mom was a real estate instructor. You couldn't have told me, Dave, you couldn't have told me 20 years ago I was going to be a real estate broker with short hair and sell houses and teach people how to do it. But I figured out very quickly what happens in the music world if you do get any kind of a taste of success. There's this thing. It's Everything's great. Yay!
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. So, not trying to knock the new guys coming up, but find something else to do.
Hmm.
Put your money, invest your money wisely, boys. Yes.
Okay.
It would be the same deal if you were an actor.
Yeah.
You're not going to be in the TV shows or the movies very long. You better put something back and find something else to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I've taken enough of your time for this evening. Well, it's not
Awesome.
evening. Yeah, I mean, for you, it's just middle of the day.
Yeah, it's around 3:30 p.m. ish. Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Wonderful. Yeah. What is the weather like with you at the moment? I
It's
think it's
raining.
oh,
It's raining and probably 60 degrees Fahrenheit here, which what's that, about 19, and the
yeah.
guys met it somewhere around 19, or a little lower than that, a little lower, maybe 18. Yeah.
I was thinking I might be jealous, but I'm not at all now.
Nah, it's like England right now out there, really.
No, no, please don't say that.
It's England. It's England. It's London. Totally.
Jay, I hope to see you very soon in May on your upcoming tour with Skinny Molly.
Yeah, come
And
visit with us, man.
I
We'll do
will
this thing.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish you all the very best with your musical career and your farming. I've got to say that.
Thank you, sir.
That's
Like
all
I
right.
said, now you've got me something new to think about, dairy farming. Cool.
Dairy farm,
Tell,
don't do
tell
it. Don't.
Fred and the boys I said,
Yes, yes, they have a new album coming out in the next couple of weeks. So they're on a bit of a
awesome.
whirlwind media thing now. So it's
Well, I can't wait to see them. We usually get a chance to bump into them, about every time we're over. So it'll be a lot
yeah,
of fun.
they're a bad influence on everybody.
Absolutely, they are.
Yeah. Which
They,
one's the worst? Fred? Moose?
Fred, Fred,
Yeah, I
Fred.
thought he was. Yeah. Jay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I could have been a plumber, but Fred, Fred talked me out of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks, sir.